Today's day 607 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Today's Arukh HaShulchan Yomi is being sponsored by John Abraham for the schus of enhancing Yiras Shamayim. We can all do with enhancement of our Yiras Shamayim. If you'd like to sponsor upcoming shir or more of a HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. We very greatly appreciate it. They were doing Siman Shin Nun Ches, Sif Chav Gimel, to Siman Shin Samech, Seif Beis. Chav Gimel. And in case you're wondering about the backdrop, it's authentic. It is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. This is the week in which yeshivas are off, and we are here with our grandchildren and family. Chav Gimel, you got karpa based on the same shukaf ledira. If you have a karpa, which more than based on the same, which originally was hukaf ledira, these balimo mayim, and now it's full of water. You mean let's just see if the water is suitable to drink. Then aim on the deal they don't negate the habitation. Even though expand to an area which is more than sosaim, even if they're very deep. If you let's just see if they're not suitable drinking, dinam kizroim, then it's like grain and they cancel the habitation. Let's if they're 10 tefachim deep. Mr. Bura says even if it's less than 10 tefachim, one should be machmir, unless it's a shas adchak. Less than 3 tefachim, he says for sure is okay, but between 3 and 10, it should be machmir. He says less than shas adchak. There are many places where this does become a shas adchak. But in any event, this is if the pachim yud have like tifa repesh, shein chokim mishus latzon, clearly argues in the Mishnah Berurah, if it's less than 10 tefachim, it's okay because like tifa repesh, where people which does not make it does not have a separate make a separate rishus, which is a very important kula to remember. If they have 10 tefachim deep, and the not suitable drink, they don't ask for the chotzer, which they are. Because their mechitza came from mukim masar tefachim, which is 10 tefachim deep. But that's of course it has has the proper slope. Veneer the ba'ina shi ruim l'shias adan gamkein. He says it has to be suitable for drinking for human beings. Not only it's not suitable for human beings, they're suitable for animals. Not good enough. They are only they're not considered they are only not grain, and of course they're canceled habitation. Because even by pasi biros, which were matir for drinking for ole regolim, even though animals were definitely drinking from there, it still had to be righteous l'shasiyah for human beings. So therefore, that would not be enough. Excuse me, for be right for drinking only for animals. Although the Rashba, very famous Rashba, I should say, says that as long as it's royal kfisa, that's good enough. And I don't know why it's not put down here. Perhaps it is down later on, but not here. Chavdal, karpa basically beis shleim. Of course, we royal kfisa has to be clean, otherwise wouldn't be royal kfisa. Chavdal, karpa beis shlosha sin. If you have a karpa which is 3 sin, which is one more than allowed. V'asa gaga meshach beisa, but you made a roof on a base of that. Huta karpa it's minimum. Shouldn't the gag have a mechitza? Because the roof is a mechitza. The mean pitikor yor b'seisim could say pitikor yor b'seisim, which is a bit problematic because we don't say pitikor yor b'seisim unless there are 2 sides. I'm not sure if he's been saying it's a special leniency. Here, even if it has no sides, the Torah need to have 2 sides. And I say pitikra. By the way, I missed the Mishnah Berurah before. On royal kvisa, I see now the Mishnah Berurah says that some people make it's royal kvisa, etc. And the Sharatzion also is smarich in this and says that you can rely on that's royal kvisa because it's only speculative rabbanon. So again, I'm surprised Arukh HaShulchan doesn't bring it down. Okay, back to where we are here. So Pitikos Lady of Saisim and then he works. I feel Kiraga even if it's a slanted roof like we have, I show them Shipua, come kill was them unless they were lenient, come kill my Pitikor Yard Saisim. The Karpav should base a sign with Sumtam a Karpav, which is precisely to base a sign, the Chatzer Shenifu to and then it broke open completely into a Chatzer. Karpav who also the Karpav forbidden, Shayat is a base a sign. Because it's more than a base time. Even though having a chotzer should not be a problem because it's Shai Hukaf Ladira, because having chotzer is made for Dira. Kosher over there, anything which is hooked over the dira, there's no ishir to the extent its expanse. But the place where the wall was standing originally. Miyasa also it expands the base of Saim. Vosei Yosef Saim makes more than base of Saim. Chotzer is mutter b'kumnei shear lavir because there's no limitations on the chotzer. That for that perspective, the chotzer is permitted. However, also for another reason, it can be also. The shifra similar karpaf because it's open completely through karpaf. So if there's no wall, aren't remnants of the wall on both sides to make it a to be l'chayim for the chotzer, also it's forbidden. Karpaf also the chotzer mutter. I would say wrote that the karpaf is also the chotzer mutter. That's when there are remnants of the wall on either side. Brackets says this among Abraham. Says that's why he says it does not talk about that chotzer because it's not so simple. It's always mutter. Hey, that which it says in Shulchan made a new wall at the length of the old wall. More than 10 amos. And he drew it in more than 3 tefachim from the old wall. Took our kappa after the kappa is made so Pesach that achieves now status of opened and then walled in afterwards. That's as long as the new wall is standing. But the new wall fell, interestingly enough, says the Arukh HaShulchan still goes back to his prohibition. As long as it exists, it cancels the first one. Which was not for the purpose of dira. But now we're going back to rewind the first one. Who to close our Yisrael and it goes back to its original place. Shin Nun Test. Din Rechava Shachor Bating Moshe Yob Bezmanom. The halacha expands behind the door, the houses, whereas they had in their time, which really is not prevalent nowadays. Aleph Dad was Manik Marishon Tangamar Yobin Yonim Bachatzer Shlem Al Tmuna Chesh Mishloim. Their structures and their yards were different than ours. That Seina Batim Amdim Meitzar Shus Rabim, but the houses stand on the side of Shus Rabim. V'Chatzer Chorei Bayis, and our yards are behind our houses. At Shlom Hayah Chatzer Lifnei Bayis, by them the Chatzer was in front of the houses. The houses were built inside the Chatzer. Batim, and the place in front of the house was called the Chatzer. And if you go to Yerushalayim, to the old neighborhoods like Meir Shorim, you could still see that kind of structure today. And that place was where they did most of the stuff. And most of life was outdoors at that point. In place behind the houses, was called a rechava. The zelma came karpa, it's like a karpa. Sometimes it was a silo between the house and the rechava. In the rechava, they used to put down firewood and merchandise. Sometimes it was much larger based on sign. So that's a lot of a carpet in those circumstances. Even though it's a private property, even though it belongs only to one person, doesn't matter. It still has to be mukaf l'dira because by default it's not considered mukaf l'dira. So Arukh HaShulchan describes what the scenario was in general. Rechava was near the yard, and the carpet was further away from the yard. Much custom Rashi Be'ervim, so Lashono, like Rashi writes in the Abzayin Ervin, Rechava is a hekef chatzer shachorei batim. It's Rechava is an expanse which is similar to a chatzer behind the houses. Koi Rechava, it's called Rechava Mukefes Arba Mechitza. It's 4 walls. Akan Lashono. But then if you now understand what the Torah Shulchan have to say in this siman. If you have an expanse behind the houses, you say base sign more than base sign for a hook full of deer, and it was not to surround for habitation. You can't carry more than 4 amos. If you open an opening to it from your house, and then you surround it. There's a silo between in the house, but now there's an opening from the house into the chova. Have a hekef l'tir, that's okay. We don't say this opening is open for the purpose of the silo. Not for the rechava. That there's no opening for the rechava. It's considered appropriately a pesach for the rechava, and therefore it's considered pasach of self-hukaf. She based the sign because it's a base of sign certainly less. Anything karpav doesn't have low karpav. Mutter talked about male advice. You have to carry from it into the house and vice versa. Vatam nearly, and the reason it seems to me the karpa of a shoe who have beirokok me'bayis, the karpa which is very far from the house. There's no connection, no proximity to the house. Having a stable shoe is like second two rishuyos. Very tightly mizel you can't carry from a karpaf into a chutzer. Aval chava sheyach smuch lebayis, but the chava which is adjacent to the house. Ain't you saying base sign, but it's not more than base sign. He can chutzer. It's like the chutzer has the same size chutzer in pasach law. In pasach law. In pasach with self hook as long as you made the opening and then surrounded it. Altit mani marashachu. Don't be astounded with the following question. Yima chutzer haya pesach pasach self hukaf. If the chutzer was first had an opening and then was surrounded, gam rechava kain, and the rechava also is like that. But men ishnei rechava about chutzer. It seems like rechava and chutzer is exactly the same thing. Kenu. This is the way to understand it. Calling a maxim chutzer. First they designate a chutzer. If you're burning by so chutzer, they build a house in the chutzer. You go to the chutzer, and then they will make a fence around the chutzer. And then they designate a place behind the houses for this rechava. So in terms of chutzer, it's possible to self hukaf. The hukaf, by definition, by default, because the primary building was after they designated the chutzer, but before they built the wall of the chutzer. Rechava was an afterthought. Like they didn't designate the time of building. Then when they decide afterwards to designate a place of chava, ain't lebinia material. It's too late. There's no structure. There's no structure of minute. The house is not open for it. It seems that the Arukh HaShulchan even had an opening from the house. It's still not considered to be pasul so hukaf unless you open it specifically for the purpose of the rechava, which is a little bit difficult. And the Mishnah Berurah does not bring this down, it seems. But he says, because it seems that the Pashup Shan Rechava is that there is the opening initially from the house at all, and then you open it opening from the house. That's what makes it mutzar as long as you surround it after, in some way, after you open the opening. But it sounds like Arukh HaShulchan that even if you already had an opening to the Rechava, but it was not made initially for the purpose of the Rechava, because there was no Rechava there. The Rechava is an afterthought. So then you need another Pesach afterwards. That's what it sounds like. Now he says, Yiftu Pesach me'abayis l'shom rechava, especially designated one, I guess. Outside rechava, v'chakich the rule, and then put up a fence. V'avipasu so hukaf. It's unclear. That which are not careful. To carry, to refrain from carrying, the chatzeres behind our houses. But now when we open a door to our backyard, which means because we want to use the backyard. That's, I guess, according to the Ramah, when there's still a vestige of an issue of rechava. But according to our day and age, there is no such a locha. They all have a status of a chatzer. The kol chatzer shlom achari batim because all of our chatzeres are behind the house. The bracket says we have a karpa for asli bifnei atzma chorei ir. We have a karpa which is made by itself after behind the city. Chadoim etc. Makom bifnei atzma tocha ir, or placed by itself inside the city as well. Yesh lam din karpa. That was a loch of karpa. Avol kol some chlabatim anything which is near the houses. Kulu din chutz anything adjacent to the houses. Kulu din chutz lo yesh lam. They all have a loch of chutzer. Ach b'kfarim yesh is b'nein open dirasum. But in small villages, which are not Navardic, one has to check how exactly they live there. Now, if they still have the concept of Rechava. Shin Samach, Pirtei Dinim and Mechitzos. Specific halachos where in terms of walls. Aleph. Simon Shin Samach, based on the Mechitzos, Chayim Lil Shasi, below Erev below Shasi. We're going to see later on that Mechitzos can be horizontal or vertical. B'yad Varim. It means came in halacha Moshe Sinai since the halacha is a chopot chos b'shlosh tvachim klov with tami, and less than 3 tvachim is considered to be sealed. Okay, mechitza shetichli is gov asar tvachim. The mechitza which has to be 10 tvachim high. You can also say you can make it through by lovets. I mean, kanim gavoyim asar to make sticks which are 10 tvachim high. Chol kani rochok me'asheni pachos b'shlosh man, and it should be a little bit less than 3 tvachim away from the next one. Then he calls you see below erev. That's warp without weft. The gambi chosa sos mechitza they shlosha chabolim zel mamazay. You can also make 3 strings one on top of the other. Between each string less than 3. and also less than 3 to the ground. For the first 3 to the ground. So the 3 gaps of less than 3 tvachim each. Actually, 4 gaps, but 1 gap is between the string and the ground. You can't have a mat yoser no. So he's not teva 4 gaps. So about there's between each string there's only 3 gaps. Between each string is 3 tvachim. Each string is less than 3 tvachim, and between the string and the ground is 3 tvachim. And the strings themselves somehow are thick, so they make up a tech of themselves, as he says. So if the ropes in themselves were a little bit thicker than tefach in them of themselves, so then having mechitza asar tvachim, it's a mechitza of 10 tvachim. So erbelo should see this is left without warp. Base. Chacham said nevertheless. Africa Minator have mechitzas gemorahs, even though they're complete walls. Rabbanan also tell mechitzas scale yes and base assignment. For Rabbanan, they only work for a base assignment, not more. Commercial also bekarpevos, just like they made a gzera by a karpa. Karpevos also sometimes shenim covers a deer, but by karpevos, the bottom line in the gzera was they're not suitable for habitation. These walls are also, even if they are mukaf of the but so if somebody walks on the way, for instance, wants to rest on the way, make a Shabbos on the way, he makes himself a tent, and has an opening to the airspace, and then he surrounds the place where he's making Shabbos with these walls. They say because you can't make up real walls, complete walls. There's so there's puzzle, so hukav, that's not a problem. First you made the opening and then you surround it. So you keep them on Shabbos, and you because you surround the area in order to stay there on Shabbos. The prohibition is because of the mechitzas are faulty mechitzas. They are not considered to be sufficient mechitzas. Literally poor mechitzas. So this is the general principle. Any type of enclosure. It's not similar to enclosure of a yard or a house. And one reason they forbade that is one scenario in which they forbade that is when the enclosure did not take place after the opening to the house was opened in that area. Another scenario is this one where the walls themselves are inferior. Not to tell if in these cases we would allow you to carry in a area which is one of two places aside, we will not make a decision between these karmas gomer, between these and actual karmas, because the sadeh, v'yar v'gina, like a valley and a field and a forest and a garden. Because those are also not considered shus gomer. People will make distinctions. Okay, also to the bakula, that's why they forbade carrying in this area, which is more than base assigned with inferior walls. Amos can't carry them only for Amos no more, and they're included in the prohibition of a carmelist.